Hello, everybody. David Schuster here. Thanks to President Trump, the Democratic Party is now doing something that many people once thought was impossible: stand united. And one of the clearest speaking Democrats these days is Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. The 2028 presidential possibility is ripping the Trump plan to shut down the Department of Education, and he's putting it in stark perspective.
If they eliminated the Department of Education and its funding, that's $500 million in meals, in breakfasts, and in lunches for our kids that otherwise might go hungry. So if Elon Musk and Donald Trump do what they're saying they're doing, the result are hungry children. The result are people not getting the health care they need.
And it's not just hunger and health care problems that could intensify. The Department of Education funds, among other things, all the special education and special needs programs in public schools in all 50 states. The department also sets the standards and protocols for teaching special ed. Recently, congressional Democrats tried to meet with the acting Secretary of Education and were blocked from the building by a Trump administration private security guard.
What authority can you deny members of Congress their oversight role?
You don't have a business reason to be here.
You do not have authority, sir.
To federal buildings.
We're allowed in there.
So a private security contractor is blocking members of Congress.
Members of Congress.
This is a public institution.
Elon Musk hire you?
So are you not aware of
I know he was told to come out here and do this.
Yes,
He was told to come out here and block members of Congress from entering an all-access entrance to the Department of Education as we fight in defense of public education and students.
The point of it is the chaos and the fear. And so we stood, I was with that one, that was Maxine Waters, as part of a team that had been protesting what the president and this chaotic administration are doing.
But some of what the Trump administration has already done is now getting blocked by the courts. Even as the administration was literally taking down the signs at the U.S. Agency for International Development, a judge was stopping the firing of USAID workers. Another federal judge put a halt to Trump-Musk efforts to obtain sensitive Treasury Department payment systems. The judge said the information could only be examined by department officials and not by the group of 20-somethings that Elon Musk has roaming around federal agencies. That prompted Vice President J.D. Vance to write on X, "If a judge tried to tell a general how to conduct a military operation, that would be illegal. If a judge tried to command the Attorney General on how to use her discretion as a prosecutor, that's also illegal. Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power."
J.D. Vance is really stepping very close to dangerous ground with that statement, and he knows it, by the way. This is a Yale Law School graduate. So the notion that the courts cannot stop the executive from doing what he wants, the notion that the executive may have the option of defying the courts, that is completely beyond even what the most extreme right-wing conservative theory in favor of broad executive power has ever argued.
So why is the administration even putting this out there instead of simply appealing the federal judge's ruling and taking it through the appellate courts and then to the U.S. Supreme Court? Well, Republican lawyer George Conway is convinced the Trump administration is about to embark on something unprecedented and truly dangerous. Here he is on MSNBC's Morning Joe.
They are not going to obey court orders. They have decided that they are going to push the boundaries on executive power by basically infringing on the Article 1 power of Congress. And they are violating they're violating the Constitution, the text of the Constitution in the birthright citizenship issue. They are violating the text of statutes by having DOJ run around and do all the things that have been doing these executive orders. There's no reason that this government that has decided not to obey the laws and the Constitution of the United States is going to obey a court order. And as you know, Joe, having practiced law, there's really only one way that courts can enforce their orders when somebody is being contumacious and refusing to obey an order. And that's to send the U.S. Marshals out to take somebody in and to hold them in contempt or to otherwise enforce court orders. Well, who does the U.S. Marshals Service work for? The U.S. Marshals Service is part of the United States Department of Justice. It reports to Donald J. Trump. And what's going to happen here, mark my words, is that at some point, they are going to basically tell the United States Marshals Service, do not enforce any of these orders. We will not obey them, and you are not to enforce them. And once that happens, I mean, I hope it doesn't happen, but I know in my heart that it will. Our 236-year experiment in the federal rule of law, in democratic self-governance for the United States of America, in American constitutionalism, is essentially over.
Now, American constitutionalism and the federal rule of law may be too much for a majority of Americans to appreciate or understand. But when families see their special need kids no longer getting help because the federal education funds to the states have stopped, or when children are going hungry because school lunch programs have ended, or when the Treasury Department payment systems mess with Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security payments, that is the kind of stuff that most Americans will notice. And at that point, the anger from Democrats and many Republicans of the Trump administration will boil over. In the meantime, President Trump keeps ignoring the warnings and growing criticism from across the political spectrum. Over the weekend, Trump flew to New Orleans to attend the Super Bowl and to honor America's first responders, he insisted. It prompted this exchange with a reporter on Air Force One.
But you pardon people who assaulted first responders.
I pardon people that were assaulted themselves. They were assaulted by our government. I pardoned J6 people who were assaulted by our government. That's who assaulted, and they were treated unfairly. There's never been a group of people in this country, outside of maybe one instance that I can think of, but I won't get into it, that were treated more horribly than the people of J6. So, no, I didn't assault. They didn't assault. They were assaulted.
Trump says the January 6 rioters were assaulted. Here's a reminder of what the January 6 rioters did.
I pardoned J6 people who were assaulted by our government.
Out of the 1,600 January 6 rioters who were convicted of committing crimes, more than 500 were convicted of assaulting police officers. President Trump pardoned everybody, the nonviolent offenders and the ones found by a judge and jury to have engaged in violence. But truth and reality obviously do not matter to Donald Trump, and the federal courts don't seem to matter either. If we do get to the moment where the Trump administration refuses to abide by court rulings and tells the federal marshals and the justice system to ignore the court rulings, America will face a crisis not just of starving kids and chaos and tyranny. America will face a crisis that threatens our very existence. We will all need the courage and clarity of leaders like Democratic Governor Andy Beshear and Republican Attorney George Conway. They see what's coming, and the rest of us should prepare. By the way, the latest polls show that Republican support for Elon Musk, Republican support is starting to erode as his efforts threaten public safety and health. GOP support for Musk influence with Trump falls dramatically. Poll, quote, in the Economist YouGov poll taken in the days after the November 2024 election, 47% of surveyed Republicans said they wanted Musk to have a lot of influence in the Trump administration, while 29% wanted a little, and 12% wanted him to have none at all. Today, however, the share of Republicans who say they want Musk to have a lot of influence has fallen substantially to 26%. Meanwhile, 43% of Republican respondents say they want Musk to have a little influence, and 17% say they want him to have none at all.
Places where the government touches people, USAID really isn't one of them. But like Social Security, Medicare, VA reimbursements, I mean, there are places where, like that game Operation, to stick with the medical metaphor, like there could be one spot where Musk touches and the nose lights up and people are like, what the hell is this guy doing? And that can have the tendency to cause people to retroactively view this whole period differently, right? It's like you judge it by, here's the screw up, oh my gosh, you look back and you say, this whole thing was a mess, right? And it could be something to do with national security where somebody gets kidnapped, right? We reveal the sources and methods or something. Or it could be something with entitlements, or it could be something with public safety. And presumably they know this, but if their attitude is cut first and fix later, just knowing it and actually doing something about it are two different things.
Yeah. Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from the Evil Gaze, who wrote, Musk's approval doesn't matter because he doesn't belong there in the first place. Indeed, there is something remarkable and disgusting about Elon Musk, the world's wealthiest man, taking away aid to people who are poor. I look forward to reading your comments about Democratic Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky bashing Trump and Musk in matter-of-fact yet epic fashion. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.